Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Oh, honey, let me tell you about that day. The one that flipped my world upside down like a pancake on a Sunday morning griddle. I was elbow deep in spreadsheets at my cubicle job, the kind where the fluorescent lights buzz like angry bees and the coffee tastes like regret. My boss, Mr. Hargrove, this gruff old soul with a heart hidden under layers of corporate armor, sidled up to my desk during lunch hour. He slipped me a plain white envelope, his eyes darting around like we were in some spy thriller. "Don't open this here," he muttered, his voice low and gravelly. "Go home. Pack a bag." I must have looked like a deer in headlights because he leaned in closer, his whisper carrying the weight of a secret. "You have 24 hours." My mind raced as I clutched that envelope all the way home on the subway, the city's blur of faces and neon signs mirroring the chaos in my head. What could it be? A pink slip? Some HR nonsense? Or worse, one of those chain letters from the 90s? I remember thinking back to my college days, when I dreamed of backpacking through Europe, but settled for a stable job instead. Stability, huh? It felt more like stagnation, like I was a flower wilting in a vase of tap water. By the time I got to my tiny apartment, with its mismatched thrift store furniture and the faint scent of last night's takeout, my hands were shaking. I tore open the seal, half expecting doom. Inside, a plane ticket to Bali, first class, and a handwritten note from Hargrove. "You've been hiding your light under a bushel, kid. This is your shot at the leadership retreat I've been raving about. All paid for, but only if you leap. 24 hours to confirm." My heart pounded like a drum in a rock concert. Bali? Me? The girl who once chickened out of a solo road trip to the next state because what if the car breaks down? I paced the room, staring at the ticket's glossy surface, imagining palm-fringed beaches and sunsets that painted the sky in hues of mango and lavender. But doubt crept in, whispering memories of my mom's warnings. "Don't rock the boat, dear. Safety first." She'd raised me alone after Dad left, teaching me to play it small, to blend in. Yet here was this envelope, a lifeline thrown into my sea of sameness. With the clock ticking, I threw caution to the wind, or at least into a suitcase. I packed my favorite sundress, the one with the floral print that made me feel like a walking garden, a journal I'd bought years ago but never used, and a photo of my younger self, wide-eyed and fearless on a swing set. The flight was a blur of turbulence and tiny pretzels, but landing in Bali? That was magic. The air smelled of frangipani and spice, warm and alive, wrapping around me like a hug from an old friend. The retreat was nestled in a lush valley, surrounded by rice terraces that cascaded like emerald stairs to heaven. There, amid yoga sessions at dawn and workshops on unleashing your inner warrior, I met women from all walks, entrepreneurs, artists, survivors, who shared stories that mirrored my own hidden aches. One night, under a canopy of stars so bright they rivaled city lights, I opened up about my fears. "I've always played small," I confessed to the group, the firelight dancing on our faces. A woman named Lila, with silver streaks in her hair and eyes like polished obsidian, shared her anecdote. "I was 40 when I left my corporate cage for a pottery studio. Broke, scared, but alive. Regret is heavier than any suitcase." Her words hit like a wave, pulling me under and then buoying me up. We hiked volcanoes at sunrise, the earth rumbling beneath our feet like a reminder of our own inner power. I slipped on muddy paths, laughed through monsoon rains that soaked us to the bone, and journaled until my hand cramped, pages filled with vivid dreams of starting my own freelance writing gig, turning my love for stories into something real. By the end, I wasn't the same woman who'd boarded that plane. Hargrove's envelope wasn't just a ticket. It was permission to dream big, to chase the horizon instead of hiding from it. Back home, I quit that soul-sucking job and launched my blog, weaving tales like this one to inspire others. And you, darling reader, yes you, scrolling through life on autopilot, what's your envelope? That whisper of what if you've been ignoring? Grab it, pack your bag. You have 24 hours to start. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. Because the world isn't waiting for perfect. It's waiting for you. Leap and watch how far you fly. Picture this. Me, drowning in a sea of spreadsheets, my cubicle a gray prison where dreams go to nap. The office smelled like stale coffee and toner, the kind of place where ambition curls up and hides under the desk. I'd been at this job for 3 years, my days a loop of emails, meetings, and the occasional stolen glance at travel blogs, fantasizing about far-off places while my bank account laughed. I was 28, but felt like I was sleepwalking through someone else's life. My name's Clara, by the way, and I'd mastered the art of blending in. Hair in a sensible bun, sensible shoes, sensible dreams tucked away like old love letters. My mom's voice echoed in my head. Stability, Clara. Don't chase wild ideas. She'd worked double shifts as a nurse to keep us afloat after Dad split, so I listened. I stayed small, safe, stuck. Then came that day. Mr. Hargrove, my boss, shuffled over during lunch, his tie slightly crooked, his face a map of stress lines. He was the kind of man who barked orders but once bought cupcakes for the team when we hit a deadline. Oddly human, you know? He slid a plain white envelope across my desk, his eyes scanning the room like we were smuggling state secrets. "Don't open this here," he growled, voice barely above a whisper. "Go home, pack a bag." I blinked, my brain short-circuiting. Was I fired, promoted, being sent to some sketchy off-site training? His next words hit like a thunderclap. "You have 24 hours. My palms went clammy, the envelope burning a hole in my hand as I rode the subway home, the city's pulse, honking cabs, flickering lights, matching my racing heart. In my shoebox apartment, with its peeling wallpaper and a sink full of dishes, I stared at that envelope like it might bite. I thought of college, when I'd planned a solo trip to Italy but bailed, scared of getting lost or broke or both. Fear always won. Now this? I ripped it open, half expecting a prank. Instead, a glossy plane ticket to Bali stared back, first class, paired with a scrawled note from Hargrove. "You're wasting your spark, kid. This leadership retreat's your shot. All paid, confirm in 24 hours. Bali?" "Me?" I laughed, then panicked. The clock was ticking. I paced, my socks sliding on the hardwood, memories flooding in, my high school art teacher saying I had a writer's soul, the stories I'd scribbled but never shared. I'd buried that Clara, traded her for a 401k and a desk by the copier. But now, this envelope was a key, unlocking a door I'd forgotten existed. I grabbed my suitcase, heart pounding, ready, or not, for whatever came next. I stood in my cluttered apartment, the plane ticket to Bali trembling in my hands like a leaf caught in a storm. The envelope's contents, a first-class ticket and Hargrove's note, "You're wasting your spark, kid. This leadership retreat's your shot, all paid. Confirm in 24 hours, felt like a surreal dream, the kind you wake from and chase in the dark. My place was a mess, a thrift store lamp casting a warm glow, a half-dead fern I kept forgetting to water, and a stack of journals I'd bought with big plans but left blank. Bali? I could barely commit to a gym membership, let alone a life-altering trip across the globe. My heart thumped as I sank onto my lumpy couch, the ticket's glossy surface catching the light like a promise. I thought of my younger self, the Clara who'd doodle stories in the margins of math homework, dreaming of adventure. At 19, I'd saved for a backpacking trip through Europe, picturing myself sketching sunsets in Santorini. But Mom's voice, "Don't be reckless, Clara," and a low bank balance kept me home, trading dreams for a practical business degree. Now, at 28, I was a cog in a corporate machine, my days bleeding into nights of takeout and Netflix. Hargrove's note stung because it was true. My spark was buried under layers of routine, like a fire smothered by ash. The clock mocked me, each tick slicing into my 24-hour deadline. I opened my laptop, Googling the retreat. It promised transformative self-discovery amid Bali's jungles, with workshops on leadership and courage. Reviews glowed with words like life-changing and empowering, but doubt gnawed at me. What if I didn't fit in? What if I failed? I remembered a family camping trip when I was 12, too scared to climb a rope bridge, my cousins laughing as I froze. That fear still lived in me, whispering I wasn't enough. Yet Hargrove saw something. Why else would he, a man who barely remembered birthdays, hand me this chance? I pulled out my suitcase, the one I'd used for college move-ins, its zipper stiff from neglect. I tossed in my floral sundress, the one that made me feel like a summer breeze, and a journal, its pages crisp with possibility. My hands shook as I packed, each item a tiny rebellion against the safe, small life I'd built. I slipped in a photo of me at 10, grinning on a swing set, fearless. The note's words echoed, "Your shot." I dialed the retreat's number, my voice steady as I confirmed. Bali was calling, and for once I wasn't letting fear answer. The suitcase zipped shut, and with it, a piece of my old self stayed behind, ready to be left for good. The plane's engines hummed as I stared out the window, clouds swirling like whipped cream against a twilight sky. Bali was a world away from my cramped Brooklyn apartment, and the first-class seat, plush, with a glass of sparkling water in my hand, felt like a prank. Just 12 hours ago, I'd confirmed my spot at the leadership retreat, my voice shaky on the phone, suitcase packed with a sundress, a journal, and a photo of my younger, braver self. Hargrove's note, "You're wasting your spark, kid," was tucked in my bag, its words a pulse in my chest. I was Clara, 28, a desk drone who'd traded dreams for dental benefits, now hurtling toward the unknown with 24 hours' notice. My stomach churned with excitement and terror, like the first drop of a roller coaster. The flight attendant's smile was too perfect, but I barely noticed, lost in memories of the girl I used to be. At 16, I'd written a short story about a woman exploring jungles, fearless and free. My English teacher, Ms. Carter, had scribbled, "You're meant for big things, Clara," in red ink. But fear of failure of judgment kept me small. I'd chosen a safe job, a safe life, my mom's mantra of stability first echoing. Now, as the plane soared, I felt that girl stirring, her courage flickering like a candle in a storm. Bali's airport hit me like a fever dream. Humid air thick with frangipani. Colors so vivid they seemed painted. Vendors in bright sarongs, scooters weaving through chaos. A driver held a sign with my name, whisking me to the retreat in a van that smelled of lemongrass. The road wound through rice terraces, emerald patches glowing under a sun that kissed my skin through the window. My heart raced as we arrived at a lush valley, bungalows nestled among palms, the air alive with birdsong. The other women, 30 of them, from coders to poets, greeted me with warm smiles, their stories spilling out over welcome drinks. A single mom who'd launched a startup, a painter who'd left an abusive marriage. I felt like an imposter, my cubicle life pale next to their boldness. The first workshop was a blur of journaling prompts and deep breaths, our facilitator urging us to face the fear. I wrote about the time I skipped a school talent show, too scared to read my poetry aloud. Vulnerability stung, but the group's nods felt like a hug. That night, under a sky studded with stars, I shared a memory of my mom braiding my hair, whispering, "Don't stand out. Clara, it's safer." The words poured out, raw and heavy, and a woman named Aisha squeezed my hand, her own story of breaking free from expectations mirroring mine. Bali's pulse, the rustle of leaves, the distant crash of waves, urged me forward, a rhythm I was finally starting to dance to. The Balinese sun burned fierce as I trudged up a muddy volcano trail, my sneakers slipping on slick earth, sweat plastering my sundress to my skin. The leadership retreat was no gentle yoga getaway. It was a gauntlet of challenges that made my cubicle life seem like a distant fever dream. I'd landed in Bali just days ago, clutching Hargrove's note. "You're wasting your spark," kid, and a suitcase stuffed with a journal, a photo of my fearless 10-year-old self, and a flicker of hope. Now, surrounded by rice terraces and women whose stories lit fires in my chest, I was unraveling the Clara who'd played it safe for too long. Each step up that volcano felt like a battle against the voice in my head, my mom's voice, really saying, "Don't risk it, stay small." The group was a kaleidoscope of courage. Maya, a coder who'd built an app after escaping a war-torn home. Lila, the potter who'd ditched corporate life at 40. Their anecdotes, shared over coconut water and bonfires, wove into my own memories. I thought of summer camp at 14, when I chickened out of a zip line, watching others soar while I stayed rooted, heart pounding with what-ifs. Now, as our guide shouted encouragement over the wind, I gripped a rope bridge swaying over a ravine, my palms sweaty. "You got this, Clara," Aisha called, her voice steady from behind. I inched across, the creak of wood echoing my racing pulse, and when I reached the other side, I laughed, raw, wild, alive. Workshops pushed me harder. One afternoon, we wrote letters to our younger selves. My pen shook as I addressed the Clara who'd scribbled stories but hid them, too shy to share. "You're enough," I wrote, tears blurring the ink, thinking of my mom's late-night shifts, her warnings born of love but heavy with fear. Later, during a meditation under a banyan tree, its roots sprawling like ancient arms, I saw her face, tired, proud, scared, and forgave her for teaching me caution. The facilitator, a woman with eyes like calm seas, asked us to name our fears. Mine spilled out. Failing. Being seen. Not being enough. Saying it aloud cracked something open, and Lila's nod across the circle felt like a lifeline. A monsoon hit one evening, rain hammering our open-air dining hall. We danced in it, soaked and shrieking, my floral dress clinging like a second skin. I remembered twirling in my backyard at 8, rain on my face, no worries about sensible. That night, I journaled pages of dreams, starting a blog, writing stories that mattered. Each challenge, from scaling cliffs to sharing my truths, chipped away at the old Clara, revealing someone bolder, someone who could soar. Bali's pulse, crickets, waves, the hum of life drove me on, whispering that this was just the beginning. The Balinese stars glittered like scattered diamonds as I sat on a woven mat, my journal open, the retreat's final night wrapping around me like a warm shawl. Hargrove's note, "You're wasting your spark, kid," felt like a lifetime ago, though it had only been a week since I'd torn open that envelope. Packed my suitcase with a sundress and a dream, and boarded a plane to Bali. The Clara who'd lived for paychecks and played it safe was unraveling, replaced by someone who danced in monsoons and crossed rope bridges, heart-pounding but unbroken. The retreat had been a crucible, volcano hikes, raw confessions, women whose stories of resilience lit my own fuse. Now, as I scribbled under a flickering lantern, I felt the weight of a choice. Go back to my cubicle or keep chasing this spark. I thought of my mom, her hands calloused from nursing shifts, her voice urging caution. Don't stand out. Clara. At 15, I'd wanted to join a poetry slam but froze, scared of judgment, and she'd nodded approval at my retreat. Now, surrounded by rice terraces and the hum of crickets, I saw her fear as love, but love that had clipped my wings. The retreat's final workshop had us write our next step. I wrote "Start a blog," the words bold on the page, a promise to the girl who'd once written Jungle Adventures. Lila, the potter who'd left her corporate cage, read my words and grinned. That's your volcano, Clara. Climb it. We shared stories around a bonfire, flames licking the night. I spoke of my college roommate, Sarah, who'd backpacked Asia while I stayed home. Safe. Her postcards had stung, each one a reminder of my unlived dreams. Now I was here, my skin sun-kissed, my journal heavy with truths. Aisha, who'd escaped a toxic job, shared how she'd launched a nonprofit, her voice steady with purpose. Her story mirrored mine, fear of leaping, then finding wings. I realized my spark wasn't gone. It had just been waiting. The retreat's closing ceremony was a blur of lanterns floating on a pond, their glow reflecting my own quiet fire. I stood barefoot, the earth cool under my feet, and vowed to carry this forward. Back home, I'd face my cubicle, but not as the old Clara. I'd write stories, essays, truths, and share them, no matter the fear. The photo of my 10-year-old self, grinning on a swing set, sat in my bag, a reminder of who I'd been before the world taught me to shrink. Bali's pulse, waves crashing, leaves rustling, felt like my own heartbeat, urging me to act. I didn't need 24 hours to decide anymore. I'd already leapt. The world was waiting, and I was ready to meet it, one brave step at a time. As the Balinese stars faded into dawn, I stood on the retreat's final morning, my suitcase packed, my journal brimming with dreams no longer deferred. Hargrove's envelope had been more than a ticket. It was a spark that ignited a fire I didn't know I'd buried. I'd climbed volcanoes, danced in monsoons, and bared my soul among women who showed me courage is contagious. The Clara who'd lived small, tethered to my mom's cautions and a cubicle's gray walls, was gone. In her place stood someone ready to write, to soar, to live. Back home, I launched my blog that week, pouring out stories that found readers across oceans. Each word was a step, each post a bridge, connecting me to the fearless girl I'd once been. And you, yes, you, there's an envelope in your life, a chance waiting to be opened. Don't wait for permission. Rip it open, pack your bag, and leap. The world is hungry for your spark, and it's time to shine.